Hey y'all, this is Cheyenne and Jeremy. We're the co-founders of Blue Squad. And so it turns out that Jeremy was at Iowa at one of the Caucus events. So I wanted to, now that he's back here, I wanted to talk with him and like get his impressions about it. And I thought it'd be helpful for everyone watching to kind of learn more about his firsthand experience and what it's really like to be there on the ground. So
after my 2.5% success rate of finding the wrong person canvassing, I went to the nearby caucus site and kind of watched people filter in, sign in, that sort of thing. But from there, so they had Biden, Sanders large sections, Warren, Buttigieg smaller sections, and then really small section for Klobuchar, and then just the rest were labeled other. So it was like, stand at the front if you're an other.
how many others were there?
There's Andrew Yang.
Who were like the actual people?
Probably about 60. And then a section of undecideds was about 30 people.
How many total people were?
There were about 630, 40, something like that.
Okay.
So the auditorium was like maybe 2/3 full in the seats, and then but a whole bunch of people had to stand up front because they hadn't been given a section based on
600 people, that's a larger precinct.
This is one of the larger precincts in Des Moines.
Okay.
So the process begins by having people settle in and get signed in by 7 p.m. So anybody who is in line at 7 p.m. gets to finish the process, but they close the exterior doors so that new people who are late can't come in. So you have to be there by the set time. Then once everyone, it took another 15 or 20 minutes to finish signing everyone in, and then they go around the room and they count the total number of people. So we find that we have our 650-ish people. Then they figure out the threshold for viability, which in this case, based on the size of the precinct, was 15%. So you needed 15% to get any votes at all. So now they go around and they count everyone by candidate who's there to express their support. And
So with 600 people, that's going to be around 40.
No, for 15%, 90. It ended up being 97. So it was 96.1, but the bylaws require that you always round up. So 97 was the cutoff. And so after that, anybody that was below 97 is forced to go pick a new side. And there's a couple ways they can do that. You can go and sit with a section that is your second choice. You can leave. You can become undecided, as it were, or you can band together with other people to form a new group that is viable. So you could combine 3 groups who couldn't make it on their own in support of one candidate. But the people who voted for a viable candidate on the first round cannot move. They have to stay where they are. That prevents some really crazy gaming the system situations.
Tell us how that unfolded.
Yeah, so it was totally lightly regulated, uncontrolled, people sprawling outside of their sections, wandering around, taking bathroom breaks, all the normal problems of life. 2 very lovely ladies who knew what they were doing in charge, but they were really slow, and it began to aggravate lots of people. So the whole process took about 4 hours. It's supposed to take no more than 2.
Were there like bathroom breaks?
They took one designated bathroom break, which totally screwed up a whole bunch of the math.
There should be like a specific bathroom break strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Like by section or something, and you have to come back in and filter in. And so as a result, there's just this constant ebb and flow of people. And so you actually have no way of knowing if new people joined or not, or if some people left, and I didn't see anything obviously untoward at all. Just that the math was never precise, and everyone knew it, but they didn't know how to deal with it.
So like when people are trying to convince people to join their group, especially with like the undecided or the others, were you able to overhear like what?
Yeah, so I was,
persuasion tactics.
as an observer, I kind of walked down, I had a little observer badge, and I walked down and would listen in on the conversations. And so it was generally very like friendly and kind of timid, like honestly not very effective at persuading people.
Okay.
And they're all supposed to do it in the same set 15 minutes. But that was not at all adhered to. And I think the total time difference ended up being about 50 minutes. But during this first 20 or 30, there was supposed to be a bathroom break, like the the Sanders camp jumped right into persuading people. So only Warren, Sanders, and Buttigieg ended up viable. But the Buttigieg camp started off with 96, and they needed 97. And they didn't do the math, like they didn't realize it. So they were supposed to get 15 minutes to convince undecideds to come join them. And because they were running late, the people in charge asked if everyone would be okay with moving it to 5 minutes. And so the team Buttigieg said, no, yeah, no problem. And didn't realize they were missing one. They needed one more to be viable. But then the bathroom break happened, and all of a sudden they had enough people.
That's funny. What were they using to like track their count? Just like
no, not even a notepad. So they it was a hand verbal count. So like 1, 2, 3, and then they would shout it to the lady at the front on stage who typed it into Microsoft Word and projected it on a screen for everyone. But of course, the Klobuchar people in the back said they couldn't see the screen at all. There was a giant theater projector in there, and they weren't using that. They were using like a little hand one, aimed at like an angle up at the ceiling, kind of. And so it was actually very difficult for people to see. But then they just kind of blew up the font. And that was the official tracking system. I mean, there's also a series of physical cards, but those weren't collected until the end. So you were handed like a large
card, right?
That's right. And you had to fill out your name, and I think maybe your voter ID number. I didn't see it, so I'm not sure, but some sort of name and address, and then the name of your first choice candidate, and then you just sign it. Those were mostly turned in at the end, I think. But again, it was very uncontrolled, and so some people left with theirs, and some people couldn't stay, so they filled out their card and they handed it in. And technically, they shouldn't have been allowed to count because you have to stay till the end. But all the precinct captains voted to agree to let everybody vote.
So the precinct captains are voting on these kind of like rule changes.
I have no idea if it's legit or not.
Because like that must be happening in the other precinct.
Exactly. So they could have said, because I think officially they were not supposed to count. But they basically just decided House rules, we think this should count, to be fair.
Okay.
And I don't know, I think it was an appropriate sort of thing for them to do, but I'm reasonably confident it essentially is not valid.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
Right. Yeah, and it was done in good faith.
Right.
But I don't think...
But there's room to exploit that.
Exactly. And everyone understood that it was like taking way too long. And several of the people in the audience commented that they had been here 4, 5, 6 times to this precinct, and this was the longest it had ever taken.
Yeah.
It definitely intuitively felt more engaging. Like it was more interesting to watch, more interesting to participate in. There's a sense of like, I'm getting to do something that I think is interesting, but it was just grossly inaccessible. People who had to work couldn't participate in a 4-hour Monday night affair. People who were out of town couldn't participate because there's no early voting, there's no voting by mail. There are satellite caucuses that take place in other states. If you go to a lot of trouble to set them up, it definitely was not representative. The way the math works out, it doesn't matter what the turnout is on that night for determining delegate allocation. So the delegates are allocated based off of historical elections in Iowa. So it means that you could have a huge surge of people in this auditorium. Could have been thousands more who showed up, and it wouldn't count.
Yeah, I think right now, there's like 70% of the data is reporting in, and I think Sanders has the popular lead, but Buttigieg has the delegate lead.
Exactly.
Which certainly plays into people's like electoral fear.
Yes, exactly. It's this idea of like, that place had 40 people, and they get to hand out some delegates.
Yeah.
Like, 6 delegates. The place I was at had 700, and they get only 13 delegates. And so, it's 15 times more people are participating, but they only get twice as many delegates to represent them. And so the system can be gamed, I think, very easily. Yeah, so one of the things I noticed is that people were very excited, but the format was like just inadequate in accessibility. So in particular, the building itself was not, I think, fully ADA compliant, certainly not with the caucus format. I don't think it was accessible in that way, and then the format was also not accessible for those who would be hard of hearing or have difficulty seeing, and certainly not for anyone who spoke a different language. And I think that there's a flaw there in not trying to include more people and not providing them a place to go where they can express their vote and their preference. And as a result of all of these kind of gaming the system, I'm not at all convinced that the caucus outcome is representative of what people actually would want.
This system can work really well if you have high engagement or high turnout.
Yes.
The question is like how to get to that point. Cool. Well, that hopefully was an awesome recap for all of y'all. Hopefully y'all learned something. So we obviously didn't touch on some of the technology issues that occurred during the caucus. We're going to hopefully have another video for you about that. We clearly have thoughts on that. But anyway, thanks Jeremy for the perspective, and yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thanks.
Thanks everybody.